Go.
I want you all to close your eyes and picture yourself walking down a street at night. It's dark, it's busy, and you see a man and you think he's a little sketchy, but your mind wanders off and you keep walking. However, that thought is still in your mind. According to studies done, there are 25 to 50 serial killers that are active in the United States. That is just the United States alone. The number is obviously way bigger than that. So what made you lucky enough to walk by unharmed? That may not have been the case if you went up to Edmund Kemper. Biography.com states, Edmund Kemper was born December 18th, 1948 in Burbank, California. His parents were divorced. He lived with his mom and two sisters. His mom was an alcoholic and she blamed him for everything that happened during the divorce. At 10 years old, he was forced into a basement away from siblings and feared he would harm them. There were signs of early trouble, including dreams of killing his mom and cutting off the heads of his sister's dolls. When questioned later in trial, he said, "I remember the thrill you hear, that little pop and pull that the heads have and when you hold them up by the hair." That was stated by allthat'sinteresting.com. He also played the gas chamber game. This is where he blindfolded his sisters, took a chair, and pretended to kill them. He killed cats at the age of 13. He buried one alive and killed the other with a knife. He was sent to live with his grandparents in North Fork, California. This is where the first murder occurred. He hated living with his grandparents. He had a firearm, but that was taken away due to killing animals. On August 27, 1964, at the age of 15, he turned his rage onto his grandparents. He shot his grandma in the kitchen and his grandpa outside. He then called his mom, who told him to call the cops. He says, "I shot my grandma to see what it would feel like. I then shot my grandpa for a cover-up." That was stated by investigationdiscovery.com. He went to the California Youth Authority to undergo a test. This is where he discovered he has a very high IQ and tested positive for paranoid schizophrenia. He was put into Atascadero State Hospital for the mental. In 1969, he was released at the age of 21. The doctor said he shouldn't be living with his mom, but he did it anyways. He attended community college and worked many jobs. In 1971, he worked in the Department of Transportation. This is where he applied to be a trooper, but couldn't because of his size. They named him Big Ed because he was 6'9", 300 pounds. He hung around the cops and they even gave him a fake badge. Then he got into an accident. He was hit by a car on the motorcycle. He experienced a bad arm injury and received $15,000 in settlement. However, he was unable to work. He discovered he has a new hobby. He saw many lady hitchhikers and stored tools in his car. He says, "At first I picked up girls just to talk to them and struck up a friendship over 100 girls. He started by giving rides and letting them go." He says, "I'd see a pretty girl and think I'd like to date them, but the other side of me thinks I wonder what her head would look like on a stick." Then, after that, the first real murder occurred on May 7th, 1972. They were Fresno State students, Marianne Pesky and Anita Luchessa. They were reported missing by their families. On the way home from the murder, he was stopped for a broken taillight, but was left with a warning. On August 15th, Marianne's head was found in the woods near Santa Cruz. Anita, however, was never found. The third victim is Cindy Shaw. In January 1973, he picked her up. He shot and killed and waited for her mom to leave. He brought her body back to his house and dismembered her body and threw parts into the ocean. Later parts washed up and her head was found in her mom's yard. According to biography.com, during this time, 2 other serial killers were on their reign. The co-ed killer was Edmund Kemper was named the co-ed killer. In April 1973, he went to his mother's house. They got into a fight, and later that night, he attacked her while she was sleeping with a hammer. He took off her head, hands, and larynx and threw them in the garbage disposal. He called Sally Hallett, who was a family friend, and he strangled her body and hid her body in the closet. The next day, he fled to Pueblo, Colorado. On April 23rd, he called Santa Cruz and confessed. In October 1973, he was charged with 8 counts of murder in the first degree. He was found guilty on all charges. The judge asked him what his punishment should be, and he said, and I quote, "Torture me to death." He was sentenced 9 life sentences and is currently serving in the California Medical Facility in Vacaville. He is 72 years old today. From the 60s to the 70s, the co-ed killer was responsible for 10 people's deaths. To this day, he still rots in jail alongside other killers like him. So next time you are walking down the street and have a weird encounter with a person, don't let those silly thoughts leave your mind completely. Who knows? Maybe the assumptions are right. Thank you.